My name's David, aka Grand Pooh Bear. I am a Red Bull gaming athlete, but growing up, my dream was to be a snowboarding athlete. Snowboarding was my whole life growing up. I went to college to snowboard. I dropped out of college so I could snowboard more. I moved to Lake Tahoe so I could snowboard even more, and that was my dream for the longest time. Then one day, I was hit by a skier. That left me with a lot of injuries, internal injuries. I broke my kneecap, tore my MCL, and I broke my L1 vertebrae. I spent about 5 months in and out of the hospital, and I was really, really lucky that I was able to recover mostly. While I would never snowboard as good as I could again, I was lucky enough to find a new passion in speedrunning and gaming, which kind of led me to my ultimate goal of being a Red Bull athlete, just for gaming and not for snowboarding. Around that same time that I became a Red Bull athlete, a friend of mine in Tahoe actually broke his L1 vertebrae as well, the exact same injury that I had. And he's in a wheelchair for the rest of his life. It was one of those moments that just really made you realize how extremely lucky you were. Like, that could be me. I could totally be that, and I'm just extremely lucky to be here. And you know, once I started to learn about Wings for Life and learn about the work they were doing and the progress they were making, it just became such a passion of mine. If I can help someone who may not have had the opportunity to do that, like, why wouldn't you, you know? So we're at University of Texas, Dallas. I'm gonna tour a research project. We're gonna see some of the fruits of our labor, where some of the money we have raised is actually going, and seeing the progress that we're making on literally ending paralysis from spinal cord injuries.
So we've been working for 50 years now trying to understand the brain well enough to be able to help people who have problems. And one of the problems we're going to talk about today is spinal cord injury, where someone's had a damage, typically in the neck, but it can be in other places. And then they're unable to move their hands and arms and legs and feet as well as they did before. And so we're going to try to find ways of making new connections after those connections have been damaged. This is a human head. There's a nerve in the neck of every one of us. So the vagus nerve is actually the longest nerve in your body. It comes from your head all the way down to all of your guts. It does all kinds of important things. When we stimulate it, this brief little burst, all we're doing is sending a message up into the brain, learn this. And we've developed a tiny little implant that can go directly on the nerve itself. It takes about half an hour to put in.
Oh.
And then after that, if you're doing rehabilitation, someone maybe their hand only moves a little bit, we can reward the brain right when those little bit of movement's happening, find those connections that are still connected all the way down to the arm, and see if we can strengthen those connections to move a little bit to a lot and eventually to restore function.
You play games, right? How do games kind of work into the work you're doing?
Yeah, so if you imagine needing to do 10,000 hours to get really good at the violin, how are you going to do 10,000 hours to rotate your wrist? It's going to be pretty boring. So what we've done is taken sort of standard Android tablet and thrown some games on it. Simple things, but they're good enough to pass the time. We're isolating it down to a single movement. We're saying, I want to work on the wrist. And so we can make it where the knob doesn't turn, and so it's just the strength of the move, or that it does turn, and now it's how far can you move it. Those are examples where now they're seeing that arm move, and then we can say, your high score from before was 1,400. Today you're at 1,500. And what we know is that extra 100 points really means something. Sometimes video games will trick you into thinking you're better because your sword is better, whatever else. We don't do that. When your score gets better, that's because you're doing better.
What I saw today was, I don't know, something that was kind of like a dream just a couple of years ago. What we saw was an implant that is helping people with spinal cord injuries recover movement in their arms, with great hope that it might help recover more.
That's the goal. We're not just trying to make a little signal change a little bit or change some test result. We want people to be able to take care of their children and take care of themselves and be independent.
It's really cool to see like the direct line between our viewers and our donations and that money going into the actual projects and actual things that are actually going to happen. And to see this like direct line from it is really, really, really cool right now. I already was convicted, but I'm leaving here more convicted that this spinal cord injuries they're just an injury, and we're going to find the right medicine in my lifetime to fix them.